This episode, I'll be looking at the top problems or issues that goths face and how I try and overcome them. We've got 99 problems, but the witch ain't one. Hit me. Welcome to By Candlelight, beaming goth, darkwave and post-punk straight into your brain. More cerebral vortex than cortex. Windy. So I've identified 8 common goth problems, issues and moans. Some are internal, but most are externally instigated. Funny that. Many of you will have experienced these or witnessed or heard about them happening to other people. I'm going to share how I personally try and deal with each one where possible. You may have a completely different approach, so I would like to hear your views. And if this comes across as a rant at times, that's because it is. Oh, and stay with me because my last moan, I get vicious, baby. Let the tirade gush forth. So, in no real order. 1. Being called emo. This depends on context, attitude, and tone of voice. Ovs. It's weird that this still happens. That trad image of emo kind of peaked around 2005, 2007-ish. That's not to say that people still don't choose that image, but it doesn't feel as prevalent as it once was. Personally, I've always had a sense of humour when it's come to emo labelling. And obviously if there are other intentions there, then those would have to be dealt with. But if it's just an out of context holler of emo, there are worse things to be called. Notice that it's mainly done by those in moving cars or online. Rarely to your face. Because we would bite them and they would become like us. And that's all I have to say about that. Personally, I like some of those emo bands, so whilst I don't identify as one, it's hardly an insult to me. It did happen to me not that long ago, actually. I was walking around my hometown and this girl opened her bedroom window, shouted emo, smiled, nodded, and then closed her window. She was like, my work here is done. I've made that emo feel good about his image by vocally validating it. Really made me laugh. Embarrassing actually, because I was just cackling and these people were just walking on by and they were probably thinking, oh, he's a happy emo. So yeah, a minor problem, if at all, for me. 2. Dressing for work. This will be different for everyone and will come with both internal and externally imposed challenges. Believe it or not, I do have a day job. YouTube does not payeth a living wageeth. I do mainly work from home so I can wear what I want and I'm not client facing or anything like that. On the odd occasion that we do meet up, I tend to tone it down a bit. That's only because upper management might attend and they may not know me as well as my team. But obviously some people need to wear a uniform or just dress very smart. I mean, at least you know where you stand with that. It's the dreaded grey area to end all other grey areas that is smart casual that gets me. What does that mean? Is it comfortably normal? Comfortably numb? No one on the planet knows what it means. When I had to do the smart casual thing, incidentally at the worst place I have ever worked at, I used to do small things like wear jewellery or style my hair in a certain way, just so I felt like me. So there are always small things that you can do to not feel 100% corporate if you have to dress smart at your place of work. 3. Aesthetic expectations. You may think that this should be sitting on the same sofa as dressing for work, but no, this one is worse. What I mean here is the pressure to look mainstream from your own family or friends. You know the scenario. Aunt Chrissy is having a do at her home. She's had the chairs in the drawing room professionally cleaned and she's got her best crockery out, and that's not a euphemism. What she doesn't want is you turning up as a bat. And we've all heard this one, designed to make you feel selfish. It's just a one-off event. Well, Aunt Chrissy, there is more to me than what I wear, and feeling uncomfortable even for just one day is not fun. By the way, you all have an Aunt Chrissy, you just don't know it yet. This did happen to me quite a few years ago, and I did agree to comply, but felt so uncomfortable. From that point on, I vowed never to let anyone tell me what to wear or what not to wear. Of course, there will always be formal gatherings where attire needs to be smart, but those occasions are rare. Don't let family and friends tell you what to wear. You wouldn't do this to them. Aunt Chrissy, here's your Christian death top. I've cut the sleeves off the way you wanted it to. Oh, don't give me that face. 4. Needing to nip to the shops. For regular people, they can just pull on their jacket and their shoes and just walk out the door to go and get that margarine that they should have got in yesterday's shop. Not us. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you've already been out and about already, the chances are that you're good to go. But we all have our slobby days, so to go from that state to shop ready can take a while. I mean, we know we're not going to a club, so it's not over the top, but even if it's just pulling on some skinny jeans, some boots and a Killstar jumper, there's still a reasonable amount of prep time there. And then there's the hair. Good thing is that once you're ready, you are prepared for any other emergency, mundane tasks. There is no advice I can impart here, only to look good whilst buying toilet paper. 5. Being perceived as sad. I can't speak for everyone's current mood, but generally, we find beauty and comfort in the melancholic and darkness. And we express these elements through what we wear, what we listen to, and just our general outlook on life. Being able to express our individuality is in itself an antidote to any perceived sadness by others. Saying that, have you ever felt a bit lost if you haven't had a goth night for a while, or if you haven't seen your like-minded friends for a few months? It's not that you're any less embedded in the subculture, it's just that you haven't expressed yourself for a period of time. You may have moody goth comments thrown at you by people who don't understand, and that's the bottom line. They don't understand. So I always sit comfortably in private amusement, knowing that the name caller will never be on my wavelength. 6. Where are my goth friends? I have many goth friends, but they're mostly only remotely available. I live in Malvern, in Worcestershire, England, which is like Hobbiton. We've recently got 3G and diesel. So physically hanging out with like-minded friends can be difficult to orchestrate, just from a geography point of view. You end up feeling like one of those memes that just show a bunch of normal-looking people and a goth. Not having friends who get you in your physical environment can sometimes make you feel a little bit out on a limb. I don't know about you, but I get conflicting feelings that range from being happy about being the only goth in the village to not wanting to be the only goth in the village. Normally I can just deal with it, but if subcultural isolation sets in, I try and do something about it, like book a gig or a festival, or look up the nearest goth night. By just arranging something like that and knowing that it's there can make you feel better, and this might work for you too. 7. Impractical clothing. Being caught off guard wearing impractical clothing is fairly common for me, and I would imagine that you have the same issue. I bet we've all been in situations where our outfits don't match the temperature or terrain of our immediate surroundings. I find I'm always wearing things too hot for the summer and too cold for the winter. Or at least I was, until I found skull sliders. Yeah, baby, skull sliders is where it's at. Actually, whilst these are great when you're on the beach or just in really hot climates, these are symbolic of the fact that there is always something out there that is practical that still reflects style and aesthetics. So while the curse of impractical clothing is a very real thing, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And that light is skull sliders. At 8, and possibly the juiciest of all of them, being called a poser. I'm just gonna let that sit for a while. So I'm using poser as a general derogatory term that is sometimes thrown at people to imply that they're fake or that their position in the subculture is in some way inauthentic or shallow. This happens to me very rarely, but I do see it happen to other people. Those people may be a lot younger or have only just discovered the subculture. Maybe they don't own a lot of alternative clothes as yet, or they may not know all the bands. They might end up changing their minds a year later, or they might become a goth for life. The thing is, they don't know where they're gonna be, and neither do the name callers. So calling someone a poser is not acceptable, and if I ever notice it in the comments on my videos, then the perpetrator will be gone. But we do have to make the distinction between the trolls and those people that actually mean it. Those who mean it are just simply sad and insecure and get a kick out of bringing other people down. I've actually said this in another episode. They're the kind of people who will drive right up to the bumper of a learner driver because they've forgotten that at one point they were a learner too. So my advice to anyone on the receiving end of such pathetic behaviour, and it's mostly online, either ignore them or simply say, "Come on in, troll, and make yourself comfortable." Annoys the absolute hell out of them. So those have been my 8 top challenges for those who reside in the subculture. Can you relate to any of these, or have you got more to add? Let me know down below. Until next time, skull sliders, baby.